Hey everyone, it's John here from Hockey, and I literally just finished editing this video as I'm recording here. Coyotes Predators preview. I got Matthew Jacobson, AZ Sports Guy, on to give a little more detailed analysis of the Coyotes Pred series, more a little bit into the Coyotes perspective. I also got CD Sportsnut, a fan, a subscriber of this channel, to give a little bit of his reaction in terms of the Preds side of things. And I actually went more into analysis of the Coyotes and Preds lineups and the matchup and just which players I think could step up. So if you want to fast forward or you want to go to those certain parts or you want to check out certain parts of the video, I will include timestamps in the comments. Of course, if you are a new subscriber, welcome. Please smash that like button, and I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching. Definitely leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I hope to see you more going forward on the channel. So now I'm joined by Matthew Jacobson, also known as AZ Sports Guy. We're going to go over the Arizona Coyotes Nashville Predators series. If you're looking at the Arizona Coyotes, Matthew Jacobson is a big Coyotes fan. I think the Coyotes are a team that's very sneaky, but Matthew, I want you to go over the Coyotes, what you think they need to do to win this series.
So Arizona, it really comes down to going into the start of this season. There's a little bit of struggle in the first couple of games, but they really hit that stride and showed that full potential of having all these healthy guys back. You had an offense that finally could score. The biggest problem, other than the injuries, last season, 18-19, was just the fact they couldn't score more than 2 goals in a game, and that's going to lose you games left and right. But when you had potential first lines like Keller, Stepan, Kessel, Dvorak with, let's say, maybe Garland or Schmaltz, and then you have, Carl Soderberg thrown in the mix there. You have a lot of different depth pieces and a guy like Barrett Hayton that you're expecting to come in and get a full-time roster spot. You had that top 9 that can add a lot of scoring. Plus, you had some depth there. Richardson can have a decent year again and whatnot, so some decent forwards. So it really comes down to this offense. And when they hit that streak, when they were first in the Pacific, when they were just on all cylinders, that's what they were doing right. The defense was playing just as well as it needed to, almost as elite as they were a season prior. Not quite as, but you don't need it to be a 10 when an 8.5 is more than good enough. So when you're focusing more on the offense with a solid defensive game, that's kind of their biggest strength, is everything firing on all cylinders, because despite my many criticisms of Antti Raanta, he's still a competent goaltender when you have a damn good defense in front of him, and if the offense is applying pressure, you're going to start forcing mistakes, forcing turnovers, getting some easy goals, some garbage goals. I don't care if it goes off someone's skate or groin. Put it in the net. I just want to see goals go in. So that offense, maintaining that high level of defense, and of course, competent goaltending. We've had injuries, we've had playing down, but at the same time, you've also had some, let's just say, near Vezina kind of performance.
Before he got injured, for sure.
So that's kind of those big keys. But on top of that, it's more so appreciating and getting performances that you need out of your star players. You need Clayton Keller to score. You need Devo. You need Nick Schmaltz. These guys had damn good years. But it's one of those things where they had streaky years. If you look at their point totals, they're decent point totals, don't get me wrong, even with, we missed out on 10 games or so. But the fact that we still only had one 20-goal scorer in Connor Garland and a Nick Schmaltz, a Christian Dvorak, a Clayton Keller that were so streaky and inconsistent, that's kind of what you need to do the opposite of going into the playoffs, because they showed that potential. They had that right there on fire throughout that first part of the season. If you get back to that, that's an unstoppable offense and an unstoppable combination, really, going back to that defense. And you need the defense to stop bending, especially later on in that season. Yes, there's injuries. You had, Hjalmarsson, and, of course, Osterley wasn't exactly playing as well as he did the season prior, which is unfortunate. But the fact that that defense as a unit was just bending and bending. Luckily, it never quite broke. But you never want to see a defense as talented as this bend like it did. So you need to definitely do the opposite of that, get back to that elite level that they have. And then, goaltending. That's really just those 3 keys. Key players need to score. Defense needs to play up. Goaltending needs to be consistent. And we need to have a little less injuries going into this playoff.
So talk a little bit about Taylor Hall, because obviously throughout the season, through the Coyotes' strengths and through the Coyotes, run that they were on throughout that season, getting into the first spot in the Pacific, it was a weird transition because you acquired Taylor Hall, and it was kind of like the Coyotes took a step back. Taylor Hall was still playing decent, but he kind of had a down year a little bit, and it seemed like the Coyotes were just kind of struggling to get back to their frame and get back to the way that they play. So talk a little bit about Taylor Hall's potential through this break, and his impact potentially in the playoffs, and another guy, Phil Kessel, who you go to Pittsburgh, you win the Cups. So talk a little bit about Phil Kessel's possible impact as well in the playoffs.
12 less games played, he went from having a point a game to 38 points. Under 15 goals scored, under 25 assists. And it's so weird because at the beginning of the season, while he wasn't quite scoring, he was looking very good. He was skating fast. He was moving the puck. He had some chemistry with Keller and Stepan. I have no idea where that production went. And then as the season went on, he just looked really lazy, and it looked like he's getting bounced around from first to second to third. I think he even had a couple games where he's on the fourth line for a couple of shifts, and it's frustrating. And a guy like that just needs to play to his potential, his strength. With Taylor Hall, that one's weird to me because when you look at his statistics just playing here, 35 games, 10 goals, 17 assists, 27 points, ridiculously consistent, borderline a point-per-game guy, just shy, obviously, but he was also really getting Connor Garland going. I mean, Connor Garland, 22 goals, the first 20-goal scorer on the Coyotes in 2 seasons. So he honestly has done his role. He just needs to stay with Connor Garland in that first line, maybe have Dvorak with him. I know they keep shuffling around who's with who. I kind of want to see Schmaltz get a little more time at center, but I'm not entirely sure if that's the direction that they want to go moving forward. But at the same time, like, you just need that good center playing with these 2 really good wings because Taylor Hall, just keep doing what he's doing. I don't understand fully why they were losing minus that defense really started to bend right around the time when they got Hall, and then you had some struggles on offense. So I don't want to blame Hall. I know it's a meme, but I'm someone that I get frustrated when I hear the Hall shaming because he's been ridiculously consistent in living up to kind of his numbers while here. Obviously, I'm not going to stand up for him in New Jersey this year. There's a lot of drama, a lot of whatnot, but just in Arizona, I think he's more than stood up for his numbers and his money.
Just talk a little bit about, I guess, the goaltending matchup. You're looking at a duo like Antti Ranta and Darcy Kuemper, and then on the other side, you're looking at the experience in Pekka Rinne and UC Saros. And I mean, a lot of people would look at that pairing and go, Saros had the better year. But for a guy like Pekka Rinne, I don't think we should overlook him. I mean, he's had a lot of playoff experience. He made it to a Stanley Cup final. So for a guy like Pekka Rinne, are you worried that maybe that's a guy that gets going in the playoffs? Or are you confident that Darcy Kuemper can be the best goalie in this series?
Absolutely no disrespect. Growing up, Pekka Rinne was kind of up and coming when I got into hockey. No disrespect to the man. There's another much better goaltender that around a similar age bracket also made it to a cup final and didn't really do anything in it. Wasn't entirely his fault, but a guy like Hank, that's a much better goaltender, still not being able to be on the winning side. I'm not entirely sure that that level of experience and that history of high-quality play is going to be enough when it also relies on the entire team as a whole. Plus, you got to factor in aging, and fatigue, plus about, 2 months off now. So a lot of guys might honestly be a little more lethargic. It might take some of the older guys a little more to get into it if they were not working out during that off time. So I'm not too worried about him as an overall factor. He's something to look out for, but it's also a really hardcore 50-50 chance of whether he's going to be elite or lacking. And then Saros obviously had a better year, but he's also a younger guy. So it's one of those things where it's another 50-50, at least to me. When it comes to Darcy and Ranta, Darcy Kuemper is probably the best goaltender since Ilya Bryzgalov in Arizona, just because of how consistent he's been when he's played, when he's given the opportunities. And obviously injuries have slowed him down, and it absolutely sucks to see that. But I think given the time, especially with his age range, he should be able to bounce back a little more so with a lack of exercising, if there is, again, that factor going into this playoff. So I think he is already positioned to kind of be the better of them because he has experience.
Matthew, now go over the series, best of 5. Who do you see winning this series, and how do you see it going down?
One of two things will happen. I don't like extremes, but essentially this is one of those scenarios I just see one of two things happening. Either Arizona shows up. They realize the struggles. They realize the playing down to their ability. And they go out there and they're just on fire. They're playing. They adopt that mindset of the owner as I sure as want to win. So, I see that and it borderline being a sweep. Not necessarily a no contest. I want to respect Nashville more because they are a talented team, a very talented team. But same thing with, let's say, their 2012 run. There's a lot of similarities between that run and this team where if they get hot, if you give them a couple of wins, they can just run. They can just go. And if they show up ready and prepared, I can see a sweep and I can see them just going. Now, if at any point in time they're sluggish, they're slow, that defense is bending, you get let's just say, for example, we've seen like Antti Ranta play injured. You can clearly tell he's injured, but they're playing him anyway. Let's say Kuemper was still out, so they're just riding Ranta. If you have a goaltender that is not 110% and that defense starts to bend, that offense is not going to be able to bail you out when you're down 2-0 in the first period because this team is very momentum and morale based. You can definitely tell they get down early in games. They either have to spark up at the very end or they just kind of peter out and nothing really happens with it. So if they come out, they come ready, they're going to sweep, borderline. And then if they're sluggish in any aspect, any of those three pillars, I can see them either getting swept or maybe winning one game in the series.
Hey guys, so now I'm joined by CD Sportsnut, one of my subscribers on the channel, a big Predators fan. CD, talk a little bit about the Predators going into the series against the Coyotes, best of the 5 series. Who do you think could be the big X factors, the better players on the Predators, and what are you most excited about for the series?
I think Yossi and Alcom could be a big part. And Rene needs to be at his best, because when he's not at his best, we suck. We've shown it in the past. We were the underdog, 8 seed versus the Blackhawks, swept them.
If you're talking about the Predators, they were considered to have a bad year this year, but they were still the 6th seed, so I don't think you can overlook the Preds. Talking about goaltending, so do you think Pekka Rinne should start right off the bat, or would you give it a chance for UC Saros, who most people would say had a better year?
I think Saros should start the first game. Like, if Saros doesn't have solid enough, they should do Rene.
Are you worried about the Coyotes at all, and what's your prediction for the series, best of the 5?
I think it's going to go to a Game 5, pivotal Game 5, and the Preds will win in double overtime.
So you're saying Game 5, double overtime, who's scoring the game-winning goal?
Yossi, 2 minutes into the second overtime.
All right, well, I'll be streaming it, and will you be in the live stream?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
About midnight.
All right, well, subscribe to the channel, guys. Drop a like. This was CD Sportsnut, one of the subscribers on the channel. And, yeah, CD, can we get a Go Preds?
Let's go, Preds.
Coyotes lineup here. Hall, Dvorak, Garland, Kessel, Schmaltz, Keller. I think that's your top 6. Again, I could see Keller being on that top line with Dvorak and Hall. I think Hall and Garland were playing well together, so I think that would be your top line. Schmaltz has always played well with Keller, so I think you ride with that and have Kessel on that line. I think that could be a disgusting line. Hinestroza, Stefan, Soderberg, I think that's a good third line. And then Brad Richardson with Grabner, Fisher. Again, Barrett Hayton, I feel like him and Krause could get opportunities. It really depends. I want to see what Stefan does right off the bat. I want to see what Brad Richardson does right off the bat. That experience could be huge. We've seen Stefan in the playoffs. We've seen Richardson in the playoffs. So, I don't know. I feel like that experience for the Coyotes, I mean, I feel like Tocchet will value the experience, and maybe he doesn't start hating in the playoffs right away. Ekman Larson, Lyubushkin. The thing is, Osterley's good, and I feel like Osterley should be in here, but you've got 7 great defense. Lyubushkin's really underrated, and he was playing well with Ekman Larson, so I could see maybe Lyubushkin being out of the lineup and having Demers again with Ekman Larson, having Jarmelson with Chikrin as a good shutdown pair, and then Osterley with Goligoski on that bottom pair. It could be something like that, but obviously on that left side, I think that's when Chikrin comes back, and then goaltending, Ranta and Kuemper. I mean, you're probably going to carry Aiden Hill into the playoffs, so that's probably what you're going to run with. Preds lineup. It's going to be something like this. I'm just going to go to extra forwards here. You got to run that top 6. I'm so tired of the Preds making these excuses. Sorry, Johansson's there in the second line spot. The Preds will have a fresh start here, so enough of this Arvidsson on the 4th line. Like, go back to what was working last season and at some points this season. This line was actually playing really well at some points. Granlund, Duchesne, Forsberg. Granlund was getting going on that line. I think that's your top line to start. Johansson, Arvidsson, Yarncrow. I think you run with that. I think Yarncrow was playing better towards the end as well. Colton Sissons, he was playing well with Bonino and Craig Smith. And Kyle Turris. I think you potentially put Kyle Turris up in this lineup. Maybe you go, I don't know, maybe you do something like this. You have Arvidsson on the left side, and you run something like that. I could see something like that going down to try to get Kyle Turris going. Kyle Turris in the World Championships last year, he was playing on the right wing. Yossi, Ellis, Fabro, Ekholm, Hamhuis, Holzer. I think that's how you start. You could have Yannick Weber there. Tenorti, I think, was playing some games towards the end, so I think that's what you run with. And then Rene Saros. It's going to be so interesting. I honestly think you start the playoffs with Rene, see if you can get going right off the bat. If Rene doesn't play well in that first game, then you go right to Saros and you stay with Saros. But I think you give Rene the opportunity to start right off the bat, and that would be my opinion. So I would say if you look at the Coyotes have 2 better stars potentially, but I think the Preds obviously have more skill throughout. But that's if they're performing. Look at that third line, for example. Yarncrow, Bonino, Craig Smith. That could be disgusting. But it just depends if people are showing up. Arvidsson needs to show up. He had a bad season. Duchesne, not to what expected. Granlund only started heating up in the second half, so... But outside of that, I think the defense is solid. I think People say the defense is overrated. I see that sometimes. I mean, you lost a couple pieces, but I think Fabro, it could be a big coming out party for Fabro in this playoffs and to close at that top four. Obviously, that top pairing is one of the best in the league, in my opinion, with Ellis and Yossi. That Yossi cap hit makes me laugh. Same with Ekholm. The fact that you have like less than 15 million combined with these three guys, it's hilarious. I think the Preds could be a sneaky team, as I've said. Thank you. I will drop Matthew's channel link in the description, so go subscribe to him, and hope you have a good one. All right. Peace.
Appreciate it, boss. Thanks for having me on.